At the same time, having lived quite a while and been in ministry now 40 years, this is my 40th year of teaching the Bible.
For over 3 decades, Joyce Meyer Ministries has been one of the most influential names in Christian television and global missions. Known for her straightforward preaching and unmistakable Missouri accent, Joyce Meyer built an empire. Her message of faith, practical life advice, and biblical wisdom resonated across the world. Millions tuned in daily to her program, enjoying everyday life, while her books sold in record numbers, over 20 million copies worldwide. She became one of the most recognizable voices in modern Christianity. But recently, something seems to have shifted. Once an unstoppable global phenomenon, Joyce Meyer Ministries is now going through a surprising transformation. In the past, her organization hosted over 300 events per year, but that number has declined. The private jet that once symbolized the international reach of her ministry now sits in use more often than not. Her once dynamic television program is airing more reruns than fresh content. And the woman who inspired millions with her unshakable faith and direct approach appears to be slowly stepping back from the mission she built. A gradual transition, a shift from a worldwide movement toward an uncertain future. At the height of her success, Joyce Meyer was unstoppable. She filled stadiums, speaking to thousands in churches, auditoriums, and convention centers across the globe. Her image was synonymous with strength, independence, and a pragmatic approach to Christianity. But over the past few years, subtle signs suggested a shift in her ministry. Even her most loyal followers have noticed the changes. At the beginning of 2020, her once-packed schedule began showing noticeable gaps. The large-scale conferences that once drew thousands started to shrink. Her international speaking engagements became less frequent, more focused on select regions. The fast-paced cycle of travel and events slowed dramatically. Her private jet, once a key part of her dynamic and mobile ministry, remained grounded more and more often. A ministry in transition. Signs of change became increasingly clear, pointing to a quiet withdrawal. Behind the scenes, at the ministry's headquarters in St. Louis, Missouri, these shifts were being felt. Employees observed subtle yet significant changes in daily operations. Joyce Meyer's son, Daniel Meyer, who had gradually taken on more responsibilities over the years, now seemed to be stepping into an increasingly prominent leadership role. By 2020, it had become clear that he was gradually taking the reins of the ministry. At the same time, the board of directors underwent a radical restructuring, signaling a major period of transition. But that wasn't the only factor at play. Health concerns also seemed to play a role in this shift. Joyce Meyer, once known for her boundless energy, now showed signs of fatigue. Her sharp and dynamic style, her energetic stride, and her magnetic charisma were still present, but something felt different. In her recent appearances, there was a subtle but noticeable decline in vitality. Her speeches, once powerful and impactful, were becoming shorter. Her stage appearances less frequent. And the intervals between her engagements seemed to be growing longer. Naturally, her followers were concerned by these changes. But the ministry's official response remained measured and discreet. The organization sought to reassure the public, insisting that there were no major issues. Yet behind the scenes, the restructuring of operations and the shift in focus of evangelistic efforts seemed to tell a different story. Social media, once centered around live events, was now shifting more toward pre-recorded content, fueling further speculation. Quarterly reports revealed a reduction in certain activities, with some international offices merging or closing altogether. Running a global Christian ministry like Joyce Meyer Ministries is no small feat. Over the years, the organization experienced rapid financial and operational growth, evolving into a highly complex structure. Back in 1985, When Joyce Meyer first expanded her influence beyond her local St. Louis congregation, few could have predicted the monumental expansion that would follow. By 2007, Joyce Meyer Ministries had surpassed an annual budget of $90 million, attracting the attention of congressional investigators due to its sheer scale. The following years saw increased scrutiny, especially as the ministry came under review for its financial management. Public opinion began to question certain expenditures deemed excessive, like a $43,000 conference table or a $10 million private jet. These acquisitions drew significant media attention and sparked widespread criticism. The investigation into the ministry's finances lasted for years and proved to be a challenging ordeal. In the end, Joyce Meyer Ministries emerged without any major repercussions. However, financial pressures were just one aspect of the challenges it faced. With nearly 1,000 employees spread across 38 countries, managing the ministry came with considerable challenges. International offices required constant oversight due to ever-changing global regulations. Even seemingly simple tasks, such as shipping books to remote regions, became massive logistical hurdles when coordinating operations across 6 continents. The sheer scale of these activities placed immense pressure on the ministry's daily operations. One of the darkest chapters in Joyce Meyer Ministries' history unfolded in 2011, when a tragic event shook the organization. Sherry Coleman and her 2 sons were murdered by Christopher Coleman, who at the time was the head of security for Joyce Meyer Ministries. This brutal crime sent shockwaves through the ministry and caused profound grief. The case made national headlines, not only because of its horror, but also due to its connection to a high-profile figure within the organization. In 2013, a wrongful death lawsuit filed against Joyce Meyer Ministries was dismissed. But the emotional impact of this tragedy would linger for years to come. Trust among staff members was shaken, forcing the ministry to strengthen its employee screening procedures and psychological support to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. This emotional shock led the organization into a period of introspection, profoundly changing how it managed internal relationships and team dynamics. Another major challenge for Joyce Meyer Ministries lay in its family-run structure. Unlike many other Christian organizations that struggle with leadership transitions, Meyer had integrated her family into the ministry from its early years. Her husband, Dave Meyer, served as the ministry's director of business affairs, while their 4 children also held key roles within the organization. This structure created a strong sense of unity, but it also brought its share of tensions. Every family decision had professional implications, and every professional decision affected the family dynamic. Balancing the management of the ministry with family life caused significant stress within the organization. In particular, Joyce Meyer's dual role as both the leader of her ministry and her family sometimes blurred the lines between personal and professional life. Constantly juggling the demands of the ministry's schedule while maintaining family relationships added an emotional dimension to the challenges of leadership. Ministry deadlines and family celebrations often overlapped, creating pressures and tensions that few outside Joyce Meyer Ministries could truly understand. As the ministry navigated these personal and organizational challenges, an unexpected transformation took place, a complete overhaul of its evangelism strategy. Faced with the shifts of the modern world and the complexities of managing a global empire, the ministry began rethinking its methods in the digital age. This strategic shift became evident through the ministry's massive adoption of digital platforms. Instead of relying solely on traditional broadcasts and large-scale events, Joyce Meyer's team began using data analytics to tailor its content to the evolving expectations of its audience. With sophisticated algorithms, the ministry could track viewer engagement and identify key trends in how audiences consumed spiritual content. These insights led to a complete redesign of their content creation strategy. One of the most noticeable changes at Joyce Meyer Ministries was the shift from long sermons to short, impactful videos designed for easy sharing on social media. In an era where attention spans are shrinking dramatically, the ministry adapted by producing concise, accessible teachings on platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. These short videos catered to a new generation of believers seeking quick and effective spiritual guidance. In a world dominated by social media, Joyce Meyer's ministry also focused on digital engagement as a way to interact directly with its audience. Instagram stories, Facebook live sessions, and Twitter interactions became the new spaces for preaching and spiritual connection. With this shift toward a fully online presence, the ministry revolutionized evangelism in the digital age, proving that this was not just an adaptation to modern times, but a true transformation of its mission. It was no longer just about preaching. It was about reinventing what an effective ministry looked like in the modern era. The vast conference halls that once hosted thousands of attendees were transformed into community resource centers, and the traditional model of a ministry based on physical presence evolved into something far more dynamic and flexible. The ministry's print magazine, once read by millions, was replaced by a more cost-effective digital presence with global reach, allowing it to connect with a much wider audience at a fraction of the cost. But as these monumental changes took shape, one question remained: what personal toll did these transformations take on Joyce Meyer? The emotional pressure, the burden of maintaining a global ministry, and the need to adapt to contemporary challenges weighed heavily on her shoulders. Would these changes mark the beginning of a new era for Joyce Meyer Ministries, or were they signaling the closing of a chapter for one of the most influential figures in modern Christianity? In 2018, after delivering a powerful message to 23,000 people in Mumbai, India, Joyce Meyer experienced a moment that would become a turning point in her ministry. Behind closed doors, the once unshakable leader suffered a complete physical and emotional breakdown. What should have been a triumphant moment turned into a crisis. In the silence of her hotel room, she felt an overwhelming exhaustion, a crushing stress, and a deep sense of disconnection from everything she had built. This episode marked the beginning of a long period of personal reflection and health challenges that would shape the future of her ministry. Though her team had long been aware of her struggles, this was the moment when the reality of her limitations became impossible to ignore. The weight of her global empire had left physical, emotional, and spiritual scars. Joyce Meyer was forced to confront the consequences of her relentless pace and the immense expectations placed upon her. Medical records from 2018 revealed the devastating effects of chronic stress on Joyce Meyer's health. Her once boundless energy was now consumed by a cycle of exhaustion and sleep deprivation, often getting no more than 4 hours of rest per night. Her doctor had raised the alarm about her dangerously high cortisol levels, a direct result of constant pressure and an overwhelming workload. Cortisol, often called the stress hormone, can have severe effects on the body when produced in excess. Joyce Meyer's body had reached a breaking point, where the unrelenting tension manifested in alarming physical consequences. The external signs of this deterioration became increasingly visible. During some major speaking engagements, she experienced temporary memory lapses. These episodes, which grew more frequent, exposed the extreme pressure she was under. Combined with physical symptoms like dizziness and persistent fatigue, these cognitive difficulties forced her to face an undeniable truth: her body was beginning to give out under the weight of her global ministry. Her personal journals from this period provide a poignant glimpse into the emotional toll of these struggles. In a series of deeply vulnerable writings, Joyce Meyer admitted to feeling profound isolation, overwhelming exhaustion, and a growing disconnection from her own message. She, who had always been a pillar of strength for her followers, began to question her authenticity and even her own spiritual well-being. The teachings she had preached to millions now felt distant, as she struggled to regain the energy and passion her disciples had come to expect. The burden of maintaining her public image as an unshakable faith leader took a toll not only on her health, but also on her family life. As a grandmother to 12 grandchildren and a mother to her own children, Meyer had to juggle family responsibilities that made her already exhausting schedule even more demanding. The expectation of embodying an impeccable Christian leader left little room for genuine connection with her loved ones. Family gatherings, once a source of joy and closeness, began to feel like unofficial strategy meetings, where she constantly tried to balance the ministry's demands with her desire to be present for those she loved. This public image of a perfect Christian leader came at a price. Meyer increasingly felt the tension between public expectations and her own personal fulfillment. Even family photos were carefully staged to project the ideal image, further amplifying the pressure she carried on her shoulders. Every decision, whether attending a family event or celebrating the holidays, had to be made with the necessity of preserving her flawless image as both a mother and a leader in mind. With the rise of social media, public scrutiny intensified, adding a new layer of pressure to her daily life. Every move Joyce Meyer made was closely watched. What had once been a source of pride, the global impact of her ministry, now felt like a burden. Every appearance, every facial expression, even the smallest gestures were instantly analyzed by millions of followers. In 2019, while speaking on stage, a slight tremor in her right hand became visible. This stress-induced symptom did not escape the watchful eyes of the public and immediately sparked online speculation about her health. As rumors escalated, Meyer's team had to step in to reassure her audience. In an era where instant communication and public judgment are omnipresent, the pressure to maintain a perfect image weighed heavily on her. Even the slightest vulnerability became a topic of debate, and something as small as a tremor turned into a media spectacle, adding yet another emotional burden to her role as a leader. During private counseling sessions with her longtime spiritual mentor, Meyer grappled with questions that few would have expected from such a confident leader. She began to question her ability to remain authentic in the face of the overwhelming expectations of millions. Confidential documents from these sessions reveal that she expressed deep doubts about her own spiritual health and the conflict between her ministry and her personal faith. As her health struggles intensified, she found herself wondering, when does ministry become too heavy a burden? How can one preserve authenticity when the weight of leadership becomes overwhelming? These profound spiritual struggles, combined with her physical challenges, led her to reconsider her role in the ministry. Could the ministry continue without her having to make every decision alone? Was it time to pass the torch to the next generation? Or was there a way for Joyce Meyer Ministries to carry on its mission without sacrificing her health and well-being? At the end of 2021, Joyce Meyer and her leadership team launched what they call the Legacy Project, an ambitious 15-year transition plan designed to secure the long-term future of her ministry. This project aimed to gradually ease her out of daily operations, while allowing her to remain involved in the organization's overall vision. Unlike many religious leaders who directly pass the reins to their children or close relatives, Meyer chose a hybrid model of shared leadership. The Legacy Project restructured the ministry into 7 distinct spheres, each with its own leadership structure. This approach ensured that no single person would bear the full weight of managing the entire organization, allowing the ministry to thrive without placing all the pressure solely on Meyer's shoulders. Each sphere operated semi-independently, while maintaining the core values that had defined Joyce Meyer's teachings for over 40 years. One of the most ambitious elements of the Legacy Project was the ministry's transition to digital preservation and distribution. Joyce Meyer Ministries possessed an extensive library of teachings, amounting to over 50,000 hours of content. To preserve these teachings for future generations, the ministry invested more than $12 million in a digital preservation initiative using artificial intelligence, AI. Through this technology, decades of content were cataloged and classified, ensuring that Meyer's teachings remained accessible and relevant in the digital age. This project not only safeguarded her legacy, but also opened new avenues for the ministry's expansion. Digital hubs replaced certain international branches, and multimedia studios were developed to continue spreading a message of hope and healing worldwide. The Legacy Project also brought a shift in how Joyce Meyer Ministries approached leadership development. Meyer dedicated herself to training a new generation of leaders, selecting 30 emerging voices. She invested hundreds of hours in mentorship, sharing not only her successes, but also her failures and regrets. These mentorship sessions, recorded for future leadership training, revealed a previously unseen side of Meyer, a woman who was vulnerable, introspective, and honest about the cost of leading a global ministry. One of the most impactful initiatives was the creation of the Shepherd's Rest Program, a $25 million fund designed to support religious leaders experiencing burnout. This program offered confidential psychological counseling, dedicated spiritual retreats. By acknowledging the impact of ministry on leaders' health and implementing preventive solutions, Meyer marked a major turning point for her organization. The transformational journey of Joyce Meyer Ministries is a testament to the resilience of both the organization and its founder. What began as a small ministry in St. Louis evolved into a global movement, touching millions of lives. However, the challenges encountered along the way, from personal health struggles to the pressure of leading a worldwide empire, illustrate the high price of leadership at such a scale. Meyer's ability to adapt and build a sustainable future for her ministry showcases her visionary mindset and willingness to embrace change. As Joyce Meyer Ministries continues to evolve, it may very well become a model for future generations of Christian leaders, proving that a legacy built on faith, innovation, and clarity can endure for decades.